Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile is urging caution over plans by some overseas Filipino workers to stage a zero remittance week in protest of former President Rodrigo Duterte's ICC arrest. The death toll in the wildfires raging across South Korea's southeastern region rose to 24, and the pilot of a firefighting helicopter was killed when the aircraft crashed on Wednesday.
Wildfires in western Japan's Ehime and Okayama prefectures have entered their fourth day with strong winds complicating containment efforts.
And the news starts now. Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile is urging caution over plans by some overseas Filipino workers to stage a zero remittance week in protest of former President Rodrigo Duterte's ICC arrest. Take a look. In a Facebook post, Enrile wrote, "This is a humble, unsolicited reminder to our social and political leaders. Whoever advised Filipino OFWs to suspend the remittance of their earnings abroad to the country should think many times about the adverse consequences of that advice to our OFWs." Enrile warned Congress could retaliate by stripping OFWs of tax exemptions. He said, "As I said before, for every action there's always a possible counteraction. If such an advice is followed by some OFWs, what will happen should Congress, for instance, retaliate and cancel or also suspend the tax privileges of the OFWs that follow the advice?" Enrile highlighted OFWs' exemptions from income tax, travel taxes, airport fees, and documentary stamp taxes on remittances. He added they are exempt from the documentary stamp taxes on their remittances, and they are also exempt from filing income tax returns. Malacanang echoed Enrile's concerns. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro urged calm.
Pero alam naman natin kung paano ba gagalaw ang ibang mga supporter. Pero nung natin pong sinagot ang patungkol dito na zero remittance, nakita ko po sa ibang mga comments na yung mga ibang OFWs ay sinabi nilang hindi sila lalahok dahil magugutom ang kanilang pamilya. Maaapektuhan ang pamilya nila kapag sinunod nila ang zero remittance. Kaya nga sabi po natin, mas maganda po sa lahat ng mga OFWs, hindi po tayo kalaban.
They planned protests set for March 28 to April 4 coincides with Duterte's 80th birthday, and really ended his post with a stark warning. "I earnestly suggest to our OFWs to study carefully that advice to them before they get burned by it." Re-electionist Senator Amy Marcos has withdrawn from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s alyansa para sa bagong Pilipinas senatorial slate, citing disagreements over the government's role in former President Rodrigo Duterte's ICC arrest. Take a look. Marcos chaired a Senate hearing last week probing Duterte's transfer to The Hague for alleged crimes against humanity. During the hearing, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin invoked executive privilege to block disclosures about Duterte's arrest. Marcos criticized the move. By repeatedly invoking executive privilege and the sub judice rule during the Senate's hearing last week, the government witnesses appeared to be hiding essential facts. Marcos accused the administration of undermining sovereignty. Beyond their constant narrative that the Philippines was simply complying with its international commitments, a deliberate effort to obscure the truth only gave rise to ever greater suspicion that the Constitution may have been disregarded and our sovereignty diminished by the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. President Marcos excluded Amy from his campaign rallies in Cavite and Laguna, endorsing only 11 Alyansa candidates. Amy declared, "Thus, I cannot stand on the same campaign platform as the rest of the Alyansa. As I have stated from the outset of the election period, I will continue to maintain my independence." The rift centers on Duterte's ICC arrest. Amy emphasized, Over and above political advantage, the sovereignty of the country and the interest of true justice for every Filipino must remain paramount. Thailand's Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has emerged unscathed from a two-day grilling in Parliament, securing 319 votes against the no-confidence motion. Here's Crystal Mapa reporting from Thailand.
Thank you, Alma. Thailand's Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has emerged unscathed from a two-day grilling in Parliament, securing 319 votes against the no-confidence motion. The opposition People's Party had accused her of being a proxy for her father, billionaire ex-premier Thaksin Shinawatra, and mishandling the economy. The motion failed decisively with 162 votes against and 7 abstentions. Paetongtarn, Thailand's youngest ever prime minister at 38, rejected claims of tax evasion and family favoritism, insisting she's focused on public service. After the vote, she posted on X, and I quote, "Every vote, both support and against, will be the strength for me and the cabinet to continue our work for the people." End of quote. Opposition leader Natapong Rungpanyabut dismissed the result, saying, and I quote, "The Prime Minister's abilities are still lacking. If Thailand has a Prime Minister without the right qualities, the nation will be at a loss." End of quote. The vote highlights Thailand's enduring political divide. Thaksin, a polarizing figure ousted in a 2006 coup, returned to Thailand in 2023 after 15 years in exile. Critics claim Paetongtarn's coalition prioritizes his interests over national needs. Despite public trust in her government at just 38.55%, Paetongtarn's 11-party coalition remains intact. Analysts say this lowers the risk of near-term instability in a country prone to political upheaval. Reporting from Thailand, this is Crystal Mapa for NET25 World News. Back to studio.
Wildfires are spreading across Japan. Here's Tyra Lu for more.
Thank you, Alma. Wildfires in western Japan's Ehime and Okayama prefectures have entered their fourth day, with strong winds complicating containment efforts. The blazes, which began Sunday, have destroyed 8 buildings and forced over 5,800 evacuations in Imabari alone. In Ehime, the fire has scorched 214 hectares, engulfing 6 homes and 2 warehouses. Nearby Okayama and Tamano have seen 310 hectares burned. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has ordered agencies to prioritize evacuations and firefighting. The Ground Self-Defense Force has deployed 14 helicopters and hundreds of firefighters, but dry conditions and wind gusts are hindering progress. Ehime Governor Tokihiro Nakamura warned the situation remains dangerous despite no casualties. These fires follow February's Funato wildfire in northeastern Japan, the largest in over 50 years, which burned 2,900 hectares, killed 1 person, and displaced 4,596 residents. Experts link the recent blazes to climate-driven dry spells and seasonably high temperatures. Reporting from Kanagawa, Japan, this is Tyra Lu for NET25 World News.
The death toll in the wildfires raging across South Korea's southeastern region rose to 24, and the pilot of a firefighting helicopter was killed when the aircraft crashed on Wednesday.
The helicopter was flying towards us and sounded normal, and then sounded a little unnatural. Just before it changed direction suddenly, which is similar to a weird sound when we drive a car. And then it immediately fell down. About 1 minute and 30 seconds after it crashed, there were 3 bang sounds, like explosions. It completely exploded, and I couldn't even tell which part was the wing or what color it was. It turned black.
The fires, some of the worst there in decades, have spread rapidly and forced more than 27,000 people to flee their homes. The country's acting president, Han Duck-soo, said Wednesday that raging winds were making containment difficult. He vowed to mobilize all available support.
The direct reason why the wildfire is difficult to control is the strong winds that continued throughout the night, reaching gale force warning levels. We are fully mobilizing all available support, including receiving helicopter assistance from the U.S. military stationed in our country, and we are putting all our efforts into the firefighting operations.
In response to criticism about a lack of equipment in the firefighting efforts, a spokesperson for the Korea Forest Service said the agency planned to secure more helicopters. He added that nearly 5,000 firefighting personnel were being deployed on Wednesday, as well as 87 firefighting helicopters. However, the agency later said the choppers had been grounded after one crashed on Wednesday, killing the pilot, according to media reports. Rescuers were seen working at the smoldering crash site while fire trucks sprayed water towards the smoke. Multiple blazes that broke out on Saturday are yet to be contained, gutting ancient temples and destroying homes. The government has designated the affected areas as special disaster zones and said the fires had damaged more than 37,000 acres. The safety ministry said dry conditions were expected to persist in the region on Wednesday.
The Department of Foreign Affairs has brought home some 176 Filipinos rescued from scam centers in Myanmar. These alleged human trafficking victims arrived in the country early Wednesday on a special flight from Bangkok, Thailand. This repatriation follows the return of 30 other Filipinos from Myanmar just yesterday.
Isa pa yung uncertainty. Kasi hindi sila yung majority. Libo-libong mga Chinese na repat. So kaya tumagal dahil iba-ibang bansa yan eh. 35 countries ang represented na may human trafficking victims. So, bukas may darating 176 chartered flight ng Palyan. Mas marami silang kwento sa atin kung kasi ano mangyari. Ang maganda dito, walang may sakit, di ba? Walang nag-report na may sakit ngayon or pregnant. Bukas meron eh. Bukas may darating isang pregnant women. So, hindi natin yung kalagayan nila.
The DFA says the Philippine government is committed to protecting Filipinos abroad, calling its effort a gold standard in migration protection. The DFA is again urging Filipinos to use proper channels when seeking overseas employment.
Bitcoin din.
Usually, social media po yan. May matatanggap kayo sa FB, sa Messenger. Pagkatapos, pagka pinatulan mo yan, so may makakausap ka, hindi naman sasabihin sa iyo yung tunay na pangalan, tapos mag-meet kayo sa isang lugar, yun na, iaayos na nila yung mga dokumento mo para ikaw ay bumiyahe. Doon sa backdoor, hindi ka naman dadaan sa regular eh. Hindi ka dadaan dito sa Bureau of Immigration. Dadaan ka doon sa Zamboanga or sa Palawan, tapos sasakay ka ng barko, maglalakad ka na ilang araw. Napakatagal ng biyahe, no? Yung pa lang, alam mo na eh, na hindi tama yung proseso kung paano ka hahanap ng trabaho. Unang-una, hindi ka dumaan sa tamang proseso sa DMW.
U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has taken responsibility for the leak about strikes on Yemen in a Signal chat group that included a journalist. Now, Waltz took the blame during an interview with Fox News on Tuesday. Here's Thomas I. Likeness for more.
I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
It took a day, but someone finally stepped up and said they were responsible for the goof. Mike Waltz says he created the chat group on this app here. It's called Signal, and this is where highly sensitive details about imminent U.S. strikes on Yemen had been posted. President Donald Trump's administration has sought to contain fallout from an explosive article on Monday by the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. Goldberg revealed that he was included in that group chat. Waltz says they're now trying to find out how Goldberg got invited to the group, and he doesn't hide his disdain for the journalist.
I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone.
Since the story broke, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other national security officials have been trying to do damage control. On Monday, Hegseth tried to spin it that the media is to blame.
Talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
Hegseth denied any war plans had been texted. And for his part, Trump claimed to have no knowledge of the story or the foul-up in national security when he was first asked about it.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business.
On Capitol Hill, members of the Select Committee on Intelligence roasted national security officials. Democrats called on top officials to resign over the incident. Senator Mike Warner chided them for not taking it seriously.
This was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost.
It doesn't appear there will be any consequences for this security failure. Trump says he's standing by his top security advisor.
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best.
And as far as the rest of the team?
We have an amazing group. Our national security now is stronger than it's ever been.
The fallout from this story goes beyond American borders. Already nervous allies wonder more than ever, can they trust the U.S. when it comes to sharing intelligence? Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the leak means that allied nations must look out for themselves. He says members of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing group will be looking at how the U.S. will tighten up procedures to avoid further mistakes. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Meanwhile, a security lapse attributed to human failure resulted in sensitive war planning details being shared with a journalist in a messaging group containing top Trump administration officials. This, according to an analyst. Take a look.
Signal is regarded as being very, very secure. It has end-to-end encryption. It keeps very limited data around users, and it's rigorously tested. And many security experts see it as a go-to platform. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the ideal place to be transferring any kind of secrets. And of course, any platform is always going to have some kind of vulnerability potentially. With any of these public systems, of course, there's huge efforts to make them as secure as possible. And Signal stands out as one that is working extremely hard with end-to-end encryption and other measures it takes to ensure that any messages sent over its network are secure. But of course, if you are sending highly sensitive data, whether you're a business or a government organization, it's probably better to have greater control over the messaging system you're using. However, in the case of this Atlantic issue that we've seen, the challenge is very much more around a human failure than a technology failure. And this is typically often the case with security breaches. It's rarely the technology that lets people down. It's actually the decisions of the people using the technology that cause the problems.
A potential ceasefire is emerging in the Black Sea conflict as the U.S. announces separate agreements with Ukraine and Russia to halt attacks on energy facilities. However, the deal's success hinges on overcoming mutual distrust and navigating Russia's demands for sanctions relief. Here's more.
The United States reached deals on Tuesday with Ukraine and Russia to pause attacks in the Black Sea and against energy facilities. The U.S. agreement with Russia goes further than the deal with Ukraine, as the Trump administration agreed to help seek the lifting of international sanctions on Russia, something Vladimir Putin has long sought. The separate agreements are the first formal commitments by the warring sides since the inauguration of Donald Trump.
We are making a lot of progress.
Trump is pushing for an end to the war, and also a reconciliation with Moscow that has alarmed Kyiv and European countries.
We're in deep discussions with Russia and Ukraine, and I would say it's going well, but it's a situation we should have never had to even think about. Should have never happened.
The Kremlin said the Black Sea agreements would not come into effect unless links between some Russian banks and the international financial system were restored. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said this was untrue and that there was no requirement of sanctions relief for the deals to come into force. But Trump told reporters his team was considering the conditions Moscow laid out.
They will be looking at them, and we're thinking about all of them right now. There are about 5 or 6 conditions. We're looking at all of them.
Kyiv and Moscow both said they would rely on Washington to enforce the deals, while expressing skepticism that the other side would abide by them. Here's Zelensky.
Я думаю, що є мільйон питань.
I believe that there are a million questions. I honestly believe so myself. There will be millions of questions and details. But as of today, it sounds like this. Every side, Ukraine and Russia, doesn't use weapons against the energy system of the other side.
And here's what Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had to say.
Нам будут нужны четкие гарантии.
We will need clear guarantees. And there may be guarantees taking into account the sad experience of agreements with Kyiv. Guarantees may be only the result of a direct order from Washington to Zelensky and his team to do this and not any other way.
Zelensky said the truce agreements would take effect immediately, and that if Russia violated them, he would ask Trump to impose additional sanctions on Moscow and provide more weapons for Ukraine. The Kremlin said the pause in attacks on energy would last for 30 days from March 18th, when Putin first discussed it with Trump. Ukraine had said last week that it would accept such a pause only after a formal agreement.
An Australian senator pulled out a large dead fish in Parliament today to protest the government's proposed laws that would safeguard controversial salmon farms in a heritage-listed inlet in the state of Tasmania.
The eve of the election, have you sold out your environment credentials for a rotten, stinking extinction salmon? Extinction salmon.
Senator Hanson-Young, remove the prop from the chamber.
Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young produced a whole dead salmon in a plastic bag while posing a question to Labor Senator Jenny McAllister, representing the Environment Minister. After some commotion, Senate President Sue Lines asked Hanson-Young to remove the prop. The proposed laws would guarantee salmon farming in the World Heritage-listed Macquarie Harbour on Tasmania's west coast and reduce the ability of the public to challenge approvals. But environmental groups and the Green Party are concerned about the nutrient and chemical pollution caused by the industry and its effects on marine wildlife, including the rare Morgan skate, which is only found in the Macquarie and Bathurst harbors in Tasmania. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. Global oil markets are seeing a fifth consecutive day of price increases. Now, this is driven by concerns over supply and the U.S. tariffs on Venezuelan oil, coupled with potential OPEC Plus output hikes are creating a tug-of-war between supply and demand, impacting prices in Europe and the United States. Take a look.
Oil prices in Europe and the U.S. rose on Tuesday for a fifth straight day on expectations that global supply may tighten. This comes after the U.S. announced tariffs on countries that buy Venezuelan crude, though gains were limited as producers in the OPEC Plus group indicated they plan to go ahead with an output hike in May. On Monday, President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on countries importing oil and gas from Venezuela. Oil is Venezuela's main export, and China, which is already the subject of U.S. tariffs, is its largest buyer. The Trump administration also on Monday extended a deadline to May 27th for U.S. producer Chevron to wind down operations in Venezuela. Last week, the U.S. issued new sanctions intended to hit Iranian oil exports. Trump also said tariffs on imported cars are coming soon, even if he indicated that not all of his threatened levies would be imposed on April 2nd. He also said some countries may get breaks, a move Wall Street took as a sign of flexibility on a matter that has roiled markets for weeks.
Let's head over to the U.S. Capitol, but this time taking a little break from the usual politics. NET25 correspondent Jeff Sanidad joins enthusiast and master Lego artist Nathan Sawaya in this year's The Art of the Bricks exhibit. Jeff.
The internationally acclaimed exhibit, The Art of the Brick, is back with an exciting new challenge. Known for its breathtaking sculptures, this world-famous Lego art exhibition captivates its audiences. But this time, visitors can test their own building skills in the Master Brick Challenge, a hands-on competition where participants get to showcase their creativity and technical expertise in front of a panel of judges, including a very special guest. That special guest is renowned artist Nathan Sawaya, who will provide attendees with a unique opportunity to engage with him during an exclusive meet and greet session. After wowing audiences in over 100 cities across 24 countries, Sawaya's jaw-dropping Lego exhibit has finally landed in Washington, D.C. From larger-than-life sculptures to brick-built versions of famous masterpieces like Michelangelo's David, Van Gogh's Starry Night, and Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, this is Lego like you've never seen it before. And that's not all. There's a massive 6-meter-long T-Rex skeleton, a wild Lego safari, and mind-blowing multimedia art made with award-winning photographer Dean West. Visitors get to ask questions, snap selfies, score autographs, and peek into how Sawaya brings Lego bricks to life. The Master Brick Challenge kicks off with 25 super talented builders showing off their creativity in 5 exciting categories, all inspired by DC. Voting opened on March 15, 2025, and today, March 21, we celebrate every builder and reveal who takes home the ultimate prize. And who's announcing the winner? None other than Nathan Sawaya himself.
The Master Brick Challenge is something that allows many people to explore their own creativity. I think the role of an artist is to inspire. And so I hope I've inspired these builders to explore their own creativity and create whatever their imagination lets them build. Now, when it comes to judging, it's actually voted on by the public. So although I've seen some amazing creations, it's really not up to me. It's really what everyone wants to see as the winner. I think Lego is something that you can keep using in new and different ways. I always am exploring new ways to use it. Part of this exhibition here in Washington, D.C. has explorations of using Lego bricks with photography and integrating them together. That's just one approach that's different from just traditional building.
What's the most memorable reaction you've received from a visitor at one of your exhibits?
There's a piece called My Boy where a figure is holding a child in its arms. And the first time I debuted that, a woman started crying. And when you see that type of emotion coming out of something that's really just a child's toy, but it really has been transformed into art. And that's the real idea. A lot of folks ask me, why do I use Lego bricks? And I think it really comes down to a couple things. I really like the look of Lego bricks. I like those distinct lines, those sharp corners. When you see my artwork up close, you're gonna see it's made out of all these rectangles and right angles. But then you back away from it and those corners blend into curves. And that's kind of the magic of using Lego bricks. And the other reason I really like using Lego is it's accessible. And that makes the art accessible. People are familiar with Lego, so they can connect with this type of art because they're just familiar with it as a toy.
Winner Caden spoke of the inspiration behind his winning Lego build, The Soul of DC.
I guess I just had to take a good look around the city, and I wanted to make or take a mental note of what some people don't include in their stuff. Instead of some people just normally putting cherry blossoms or just the monument or capitol, or because that's what we're normally known for, and so I just wanted to be different. Yeah.
Meeting artist Nathan Sawaya further fueled his passion for art.
It feels really good. It gives me a lot of inspiration since I'm going to art school next year. And it makes me want to go more to that feeling of art and more of that career of art instead of just staying in the normal patterns of economics.
The Art of the Brick DC continues to ignite imaginations and push the boundaries of creativity. With this event, many agree that the power of play truly inspires dreamers, one brick at a time. Jeff Sanidad, NET25 World News.
Spring has painted Tokyo pink, and the much-anticipated cherry blossom season is officially underway. Dennis Liu is in Japan with more.
Tokyo has officially welcomed the arrival of spring with the announcement of the cherry blossom season. The Japan Meteorological Agency confirmed the blooming of the iconic sakura at Yasukuni Shrine.
こちらが標本木ですね。ただいま観測しまして、6人、認められました。ですので東京の方、標準木の開花となります。平年と同じ日に咲きまして、昨年より5日早い観測となります。
Making the start of a cultural phenomenon that has captivated Japan for centuries. This year's bloom arrived 5 days earlier than last year, a testament to the delicate balance of nature. The cherry blossoms, more than just a beautiful spectacle, are a symbol of renewal and fleeting beauty in Japanese culture. And it's not just locals who are drawn to their allure. Tourism numbers show a significant surge in foreign visitors during this period, with last March alone seeing a nearly 70% increase compared to the previous year, highlighting the global appeal of this annual spectacle.
Warm and the cherry blossom here, it's beautiful, so yeah, we are enjoying it very much.
Reporting from Oitabashi here in Yokohama, this is Dennis Liu for NET25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.